Welcome back to Greenwood's Vanilla Scoops. I'm Dump Truck, as you know, and Greenwood has been gracious enough to kind of be a guest on my channel and unveil some kind of maps you may not have seen or played before. Some of these are old, some of these are more recent, but they're just kind of his picks for great id1 vanilla maps.
The next map is from an author named Leafface. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's kind of a funny name, Leafface.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually came out New Year's Day of 2000, and it's called Warehouse. And as you can imagine, with such a cryptic name like that, the setting is a warehouse. This one's also a base map. It's got a little bit more of an expanded bestiary, what have you. It's got ogres, fiends, and a shambler. So it kind of almost takes on, some people, try to adhere to just a strict base enemy type of lineup, and then some do include some mappers. They'll tend to do like an expanded base enemies, but they'll just make sure not to put in knights or hell knights. They'll I'll expand it out to some fantasy creatures, but definitely no medieval. There's different kinds of people's preferences. Some people, it's basically, if it's not enforcers and grunts and some Rottweilers, then, if you put anything else in there, then, you're it's like sacrilege. And then some people, they're like, well, if you have it to where there was a slip gate or a teleporter and some critters from an alternate reality or parallel universe,
Yeah, I mean, I've never had an issue with that because the second map in the game, episode 1, map 2, has a teleporter slipgate pad at the very beginning where you spawn, and that just justifies whatever wants to come through that slipgate. Now, so I do not have a problem when people make a medieval, wizard themed map and their base monsters in it, because you're showing how they got there.
Yeah,
it's really easy. It's a real easy problem to fix, to solve. And you can also assume that there are slipgate pads, even if the mapper doesn't put it in there, because that's the whole point. That's the whole story of the game, is that these monsters are all over from multiple dimensions and multiple universes, congregating to destroy everything.
Yeah,
in their wake. Well, so I've never understood this purity test that people have, like, oh, don't put base monsters and mix those with the wizard.
Oh, I know it's but everybody's got their opinion, and it's
of course
it's cool.
This is just one man's opinion.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think it's well founded.
And I it's even with my base map that I released not too long ago. What I try to do is I had gigantic crates that basically looked like they had been busted open, almost like the base, like the base military dudes had like some contained critters from different galaxies or whatever that escaped and wreaked havoc. But anyway, getting back to Leafface map, it's called Warehouse. It's a base map with a little bit of some ogres and occasional fiend and a shambler. It's a medium-sized map. On easy, it's about 41, medium 81, and on hard level 119 enemies. There's 4 secrets. What's really cool about this map, this designer Leafface, he was quite prolific in the year 2000, churning out about 9 maps for his series, his whole Leafface single-player series. And when you play them, like if you play, like, let's say Leafface's single-player 1, well, guess what? That's going to roll into single-player 2. This one here, this Warehouse, is, I believe, it's single-player. It's his 4th release. And the reason I picked this one in particular is that it had arguably the most straightforward navigation and progression. Some of the maps that he had prior or even after this, you could get, maybe a little confused or lost with the progression. This one had some really nice progression. It was constructed very cleanly. And I really got a kick out of the use of the conveyor belts and crates. Like when you first start off the map, you were literally riding on top of a crate, and then in another part about midway, maybe a little earlier than midway through the map, once you get through like a tunnel and you fight off some bad guys. You literally have to push a button when you're on a crate, and I'm gonna just give you a little warning right here. Make sure you don't jump off that crate, because that crate's going to move and lift you and transport you to another section of the map. And if you jump off that sucker, guess what? You better go ahead and just start the map over again, because it's not coming back around. So I will give you that warning, but it's just really well done. This whole warehouse, conveyor belts, crates. There's also some interesting gimmicks. Like there's one section of the map where you're inside like almost kind of like an air conditioning duct, and this like payload or something comes barreling at you, and you got to kind of turn the other direction, and you got to run and do these series of hurdles, jumping these hurdles, because if you don't do it correctly, you will get smushed. So it's got some really interesting gameplay additions in this map. There's some use of some explosion hacks. It's a cool map. It's a little blocky, but with it being a base warehouse, the blocky construction actually bodes well with the whole look of it. This guy Leafface, when I was looking at the README file, I think apparently he's a Hungarian author. Looking at the email address, and yeah, he built this using WorldCraft. You might know more about than I do.
Yeah. That's basically Hammer or Jack.
And the only thing I would say, check out his other maps too, because they're pretty cool. But this one, to me, the reason it stood out is it had good gameplay. It was cleanly built, and it had some really neat gimmicks going on in the series. But there's one thing I would also like to point out. Make sure that you pull up the console and you type give 4 and then after that type in give 6. And the only reason I say this is because this Leafface assumed, I guess, that you played this map after the first 3.
So you've got the weapon progression there.
Yeah,
so have a certain weapon.
So if you type in give 4 and give 6, it'll give you just the basic nail gun and the basic grenade launcher. Because if you play the map, you might get a little frustrated because you'll come across all this nail ammo and rockets or grenades rather, how you look at it, and you're thinking to yourself, where the heck is the dang? Where's the other weapons? So
as I'm watching this demo you sent me, I agree with everything you're saying about it, but I will say it kind of just in a subtle way reminds me of some of the Quake 2 warehouse levels. So I'm not sure. I can't tell you if it was completely, it's not a remake of one, but there's definitely some nice kind of inspirations he might have gotten from Quake 2 if he was a Quake 2 fan. The timeline works out because Quake 2 would have been out for a while. So this is cool. Yeah, I mean, highly recommended. That's great. That's it for this episode of Greenwood's Vanilla Scoops. Thanks for hanging in there. We'll see you in the next video.